Hi, welcome to Venture Bros. Unfortunately, this week, not a Venture Brothers podcast, but fortunately, a Damage Boost podcast. Our note taker, Mr. Brock Holiday, has been crushing it on a weekly basis with his new show, Damage Boost. And because here at Venture Bros, we had some technical difficulties, things did not go as planned, we kind of don't have an episode this week. But the good news is that Brock's episode last week, this past Friday, was so damn good, they talked for like 2 hours. And Ryan, being the excellent editor that he is, cut it down to about 1 hour, which is great. And it's a very good episode. But I honestly think the conversation they had was so good that you should hear the whole thing. So coming to you this week, we have the full unedited 2-hour edition of last week's Damage Boost episode. And I gotta say, listen to the whole thing, man. This is a good one and definitely worth your time. So if it even takes a few sittings to listen to, 100% worth it. Cannot recommend it highly enough. So please enjoy. We will be back at it next week with Matt and Nick and all of those nicknames that I've already forgotten. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the episode. Bye.
You're listening to Damage Boost, the best gaming podcast you've ever heard, as long as you've never heard another gaming podcast. On the show, I'll be talking to other players, streamers, artists, and creators about what makes gaming more than a hobby, but a beautiful art and an activity that brings together communities around the world. Let's jump into it. Hey everybody, welcome to Damage Boost. I'm your host, Brock Holiday, and today with me I have Charriii5, someone I've been following for quite a while. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Brock. How are you doing?
You know what? After all our audio stuff, I think I'm doing okay.
Hopefully that's true.
So today, we're going to talk a little bit about video games, a little about you. First question I want to ask, for somebody who's never seen your channel before, or know who you are, that you have to sell yourself to them. How would you sell your channel and your content to them if they've never seen you anything you've done before?
It's kind of that's a bit of a toughie because the stuff I do isn't inherently original, but if you're someone who is interested in seeing someone tackle video game stories and, you know, point out stuff that might not make a whole lot of sense, but still give you a good laugh without, like, being too, full of information, still kind of funny, someone who, cares about story in video games, then, maybe check my stuff out. I do stream sometimes where it's just me or sometimes my co-host playing. I think that's mostly probably what I'd sell, mostly just the fact that I do streams, not so much the everything wrong with stuff, because that's kind of hard to sell, because it's like, tackling video game stories, what does that even mean? But I don't know, I like to consider myself someone who is kind of funny, so if you like having a good time and having a laugh, maybe that's something you'd be interested in, and I think I could probably deliver on that. Yeah, that's probably what I'd say. I don't know if that's too not confident enough.
Yeah, I'd say especially your streams with your voice acting talent. As soon as I click or I start watching, I'm like, it's just so much fun, and I don't know how you don't destroy your voice when you do like a 3-hour Persona 5 stream and you're doing all these voices. I'm like, I don't know how you're going nonstop. I don't know how you do it.
Honestly, I don't know. I think it might just be the years of practice, because it's funny. You were saying, and I don't know if I can say this, but you said, like, right before we started, right before we got everything sorted out, you mentioned that you hated, the thing you hated the most about editing these is that you hate listening to the sound of your own voice, which I followed up with, I completely understand what you mean, because when I was a kid, I felt the exact same way. I remember there was this one time that my mom doesn't let me live down, by the way. I was at a friend's house when I was a kid, and I was a very anxious kid, so I got scared about a lot of stuff. My parents were late to pick me up, so I my mind immediately wandered to the worst possible thing that could have happened.
Oh no.
So I called home. No one picked up. So I had to like leave a message on the answering machine. Mom, Dad, I'm here at blah blah blah's house. Where are you? Come pick me up. So they did go pick me up. They were a little late. I don't remember why. We get home. I see. I don't know what my obsession was with always like listening to messages on the answering machine. I guess I was just fascinated with that. So I hear my own message and I start freaking out because I recognize the words, but I don't recognize the voice. I'm just like, who's that? And my parents tell me like, that's you. And I'm like, no. And like I start crying because I'm like, that's not me. What do you mean that's me? So I've always, and it's funny too, because like I listen back to clips from when I was a kid. Well, not necessarily a kid, but younger. And I'm always like, man, do I really sound that high pitched and kind of like whiny? I don't know. You get used to your voice, and I think I didn't talk much as a kid, but I guess I've always been talking to myself in a way, which is why I think maybe I have that stamina when it comes to being able to do these voices and being able to do, like, a lot of professional voice actors, they can go on for hours, and they need to like rest their voices for like an hour or so, like every 4 hours. But like I could just keep going, mostly because I guess I just have the practice. I don't know.
What was the journey like? You're saying that at first you're like, oh my God, this is me. Why is this me? And now you have projects going on. I saw I think it was on Twitter, you did something today on a project you're working on. Yes. So how did that journey, how did you discover that, you had this talent, and then, how that lead to what you're doing now?
Well, first off, thank you for calling it a talent. A lot of people would agree with you, but I don't like to be that, big about myself, but thank you. I think it also did start with the whole hating my voice thing. I've always been someone who's enjoyed, much like I think anybody else in the world, I enjoy singing. I don't know if I'm very good at it. People say I am. I don't 100% agree with that. I listen back to myself and I'm like, God, this sucks. But I don't really remember where my fascination with voice acting started. It must have been around the time I started doing stuff on YouTube. And I started making my own video. This was back in like 2008 when I started like doing my own videos like in Movie Maker and stuff. And I think it's also rooted in like my animations, because when I made those animations, like the characters needed a voice, and in Movie Maker you could it's so dumb. Like in Movie Maker, it's the most common denominator, I guess, because you can only have one video track, one audio track, and that's it. Like, I don't know how I'd be able to manage with that today. I would not be able to, but like I knew that my characters needed voices and sound effects and stuff. So like I would do that because I didn't know how to download stuff from the internet at the time, or how to use that, or where to go, where to find. So I think that's where I started, and I realized, like, man, this is kind of fun. It's fun to, actually, I've been doing voice work technically for longer, because, and I love kind of telling the story, because when I was a kid, I never knew what I wanted to be. Everyone was like, I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be a policeman, I want to be a teacher, and I was just like, I have no idea what I want to be. Like, I just had no idea. I'd like nothing that I thought was a passion or something that I saw myself being. An artist wasn't really a thing that I knew could be a job when I was a kid. But when I was in, I want to say second or third grade, we were doing a play for school of the Polar Express, and I wasn't one of the actors. Myself and I think 3 other kids, we were chosen to be narrators of the story, because our reading level was higher than a lot of the other kids at the school. And my mom always taught my sister and myself to to read at a younger age. And I think that might have helped. And that was the first time I ever really did anything voice related, because the audience couldn't see me. I was behind the curtain, and I just had like the microphone in front of me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but like it's something that doesn't even cross your mind, like, oh, this is voice acting, or this is, voiceover work. So I think that was like the first time I ever did anything more like seriously with the voice stuff. And then, like I said, with animations on YouTube and stuff, like I got a knack for it. And a lot of voice actors also mention that their families do stuff, and I've noticed it more and more. Like my parents would always do impressions of people, like, oh, I was talking to so and so, and they said, oh, this that, like they do a voice for it. And I think maybe that's where I got it from. And then I listened to my dad's father, and he does the same thing. So I'm like, oh, I guess it just runs in the family. They just never did anything with it, but they've always been doing impressions. And I think maybe that's where it started too, because in my older animations, I would need like I used to do like a lot of Sonic stuff. So I would sort of study like, oh, how does Ryan Drummond do it? How does Jason Griffith do it? Because that was all we had at the time. So yeah, I would absolutely like imitate the voices and try to do my best. Like I sucked at it, and I would argue I still do. But and then wow, you have Jason Griffith who has this, and that, and you start like dissecting. They go up and down, up and down. You start dissecting voices, and I found that so fascinating, and I think that's what got my passion into it. Just the more, I guess, technical side of not just the voice, but also the acting. What makes a voice what it is? Why does sometimes acting suck? Why does it sometimes not? Stuff like that. I don't know. I think that's mostly where it's gotten. And now I'm doing my first ever big, quote unquote, big project for a game, and it's cool.
How much of that can you talk about? I am curious. I'm excited for you, so I want it as much as you can give us.
I don't
obviously don't get fired.
Right. No. I mean,
as much as I can get from you, I would love to hear about it.
The job is done. Like I recorded my stuff. Actually, I don't know how much I'm able to talk about it, but obviously I'm not going to spoil like the game, but I think I can talk about it enough because there is a trailer out for it. It's called Remember When. It's being developed by Arrow Games, who are a small studio of like 8 people. They're based in Scotland, and they're doing this for their university project. They're in their 3rd year of university. And the story of Remember When centers around a couple. Sarah, played by Conley Wenley, I want to say her name is. I know her name is Conley. I don't remember what her last name is. So she's an actress based out of LA. She's playing Sarah, who is the woman in the relationship, and I'm playing Noah, who's the man in the relationship. We're the main characters, and basically the game is sort of it's more of a narrative driven game. It centers around like their story, like how what their first date was, meeting the girlfriend's parents, getting married, and that whole like journey, and how my character Noah gets more and more confident, the type of person Sarah is, and how she helps him become a better person because of it. It's a very cute little story, and I do hope that it gets a little bit of attention, just because I think that it's one of those short games, that I think could grab people's attention, even though it doesn't have a lot of gameplay or nothing really, I guess, groundbreaking gameplay wise. It is still a story that's like, oh, okay, that was something I'm interested in, and we can. They made a joke about like game theory, and I'm like, oh, I can totally see, like, I'm not gonna get into what the theory is, but I can totally see like people picking apart like, oh, well, why this or what that, the little things. But yeah, like it's nothing humongous, but it is still like a milestone for me.
So when you're recording these lines as a voice actor and an actor, do they give them to you? I guess it'd be linearly, like from beginning to end, or you just record certain scenes, and how do you prepare yourself for, like, you're saying that he grows more confident through it. Well, if you're recording in the middle, how do convey that, and then you're recording the end or beginning? How do you know to change your voice or the volume or anything like that?
The way they handled it was they gave us the scripts in advance, which is a great thing because, and I don't know how many people do this, but I think that if you're looking to get into voice acting, you should definitely go over the script. They gave us my character script, my co-star's script, I guess, and the master script containing like every single line said by every character, every scenario, and everything. Whereas our individual scripts contain only our lines and like directions where need be. We recorded it linearly. I don't know if linearly is a word, but we recorded it like from beginning to end, starting from the first scene and ending with the last scene. I know that that's not how it's always done, but I think it's a good way to do it, because that way, like you said, you get a better feel of like, okay, I can start out one way and then my performance gets stronger as we go on. Because otherwise, I mean, it takes a great and a really experienced actor to be able to, you know, start from the middle and be like, oh, I'm excited or terrified, and then go to the start and be like, oh, I'm a little bit more shy, and then go to the end where it's like, I'm confident and stuff like that. So the way we did it was linear. And there was direction. The way I prepared for the character and knowing like their motivation and, you know, their confidence and all that. I read the script last night because I've been so busy that I hadn't had the chance to read it, but I read it last night. I understood the character. I understood Sarah's character as well. I knew what their relationship was. I knew the situations that I was going to be put in. I knew what I was going to be having to say. So that sort of prepared me to know, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And like I said, I think linear is the best way to go with that, because otherwise it just becomes confusing, I think, personally.
We're talking a little bit about, you know, you discovering your voice, your love for, you know, voice acting and acting. When you started doing those videos for YouTube, the very first ones, when did you realize it was a legitimate option to become an artist that can make money off of YouTube videos?
I never really thought about it. I knew it was a thing you could do. I knew that there were people, you know, like pretty much some of the first YouTubers out there, namely Smosh. I knew that these people did it as sort of a job, and I knew that I didn't know how it worked, but I knew that they did it. And I never really thought of YouTube as like, oh, I never set it as a goal. You know, I never said to myself, I'm going to become a YouTuber. I mostly thought like, oh, this is a cool hobby. I want to put my stuff out there and I want people to enjoy it. And that's still my philosophy today. Like, I try not to think of it as a job, because if I do, I'd hate myself because my upload schedule is very inconsistent. And that's mostly my fault because I'm overly ambitious at times. But I think the moment that I started taking it seriously and as a more viable option as an actual career and as something that I can do, and like you said, and I appreciate that you mentioned it more as an artistic thing more than like a YouTuber thing. It was in 2014. The thing was, I was in my last year of high school. I knew what I wanted to be. I wanted to study animation. And I still live in Mexico, but I was also living in Mexico at the time, and I was looking at schools in the United States, and I found one that I wanted to go to that is a very well-known art school, and because of the arts, as far as I can understand, art degrees are still very expensive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And it was really not the money that my parents had, mostly because they didn't really think I'd want to go back, and they didn't really know. And I mean, I don't really know either how my situation would work, you know, being an American citizen, living in another country, but also having studied most of my life in this other country, wanting to go back. And we tried exploring a scholarship options, stuff like that, and they just seemed too complicated for what it was, you know, being a citizen and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. The point was that we visited the school, they gave us information. It was way too much money. We couldn't afford it. And it was like a trip. It was a trip around. Actually, it was around this time, 5 years ago. God, I've been doing this for 5 years. It was around this time 5 years ago. We went to that school in the States, my mother and I, and then on the flight back to Mexico, so I could, because I took a few days off of school for that. I get contacted by Channel Frederator, who is you might recognize the name Frederator from cartoons, Fairly Odd Parents, Danny Phantom, stuff like that. A lot of Butch Hartman stuff. And, they're still in business today. And what Channel Frederator was, or still is, it's a multi-channel network. And what that is it's a network that gathers a bunch of YouTube channels, and they pretty much manage your channel. So they allow you to make ad revenue on YouTube through them, and they give you certain benefits that honestly I don't really recommend. Like if you're starting out, sure, but once you reach a certain level, it's like you probably don't want it because they're not helping you out too much. But don't tell anyone I told you that. No, it's fine. And so they contact me, and they I guess seen some of my animations. Someone there must have. And they asked me, like, oh, do you want to come on board for this? And I thought about it because, like, I'd never done something like that on YouTube before. I had been asked to, or I'd been offered, I had been given the opportunity to get an AdSense account, but I didn't know the legal, like, it was a whole legal thing where I needed to sign a document, and, the internet is a sketchy place, and I didn't know, like, do I want to sign this? And now I know I should have, but back then I didn't really know. So when I saw this opportunity from Frederator, which was a studio I love, I jumped at the opportunity, and I was like, wow, this is legit. I could, like, be making cartoons for this. And unfortunately, it was the same year that YouTube changed the algorithm and screwed animators over completely, so that sucks.
Yeah.
But during that trip, like, I figured, like, okay, maybe I can make money off of this, but it's whatever, like, that's just a cool extra. I'm still going to go to school. After I graduate from high school, I'm looking for jobs, and I'm very stubborn. I'm a very stubborn person. Anyone that knows me will tell you this. I was looking for a job, but not just any job, something that specifically had to do with art, because I figured, okay, college is off the table for right now. I don't want to go to school for art in Mexico because animation in Mexico sucks, straight up. It's awful, it's cheap. Very few animation productions in Mexico have been good, in my opinion. So it's like, I don't want to go to a school where I'm going to be taught the cheapest way to make animation. So I'm going to take a sabbatical, whatever. I'll find a job, I'll work that job, but I want that job to have something to do with art. So I applied to different places that needed, like, graphic design, stuff like that. I was already sort of proficient with computers, more than most people here are. And so I figured, like, this is something I can do. No one got back to me. There was one shoe company who figured, like, okay, you can work for us for a while. The pay was all right, especially for someone my age. But the thing was, the hours were awful. I had very little time to rest. I would be working 6 out of 7 days. And so I figured, nope, not doing that. And I fell into a slump. 2014 was one of the worst years of my life, for various reasons, not just that. And I won't get into all the details, but it's not the only reason I look back on that year fondly is because it was the year that I started making everything wrong with. And when we came back from that trip to go check out that college, I discovered two channels that I fell in love with because of their, like, it had made me laugh like nothing else had in a while. Screen Junkies with their honest trailers, and CinemaSins with Everything Wrong With. And because I just recently watched the movie Frozen for the first time, I watched both their videos on Frozen, and they had me in stitches. I was laughing my ass off with them. And I figured, like, oh, I could do a parody of that. Like, no one really watches my stuff, but if I put this name on it, maybe people will be interested. Like, it was I always describe it as a social experiment because that's kind of what it was. And that year, my mother had helped me purchase a Wii U because Sonic Lost World had just come out, and it was such a bizarre experience for me. It was a functional game. Like, I couldn't find reasons to hate it, but I didn't like it. And it frustrated me because I'm like, I don't know why I don't like this game. Like, I just know that I don't. And so that was the first technically parody I ever did, was the honest trailer for Sonic Lost World, where, like, I make fun of it and everything. And then it started to get a little bit of attention. People started to notice it more. People said that they liked it, that it was funny. I'm like, wow, this is great. I made one more for Mario Sunshine. I made one more for Luigi's Mansion because it was Halloween. And then the fourth one was a Shadow the Hedgehog one. But I figured Shadow the Hedgehog story is such a mess. I need to do something else along with it. Like, I'm not just going to do an honest trailer. I'm going to do an everything wrong with on this game too. And it was probably one of the worst videos I've ever had the displeasure of making. It was a week straight of nothing but editing. The quality was awful. Vegas kept crashing on me. The sin counter and the subtitles were a nightmare to do. And I'm so glad that the process is updated now, because I remember saying, like, I never want to do this again. But then it started just getting so much attention. It got, like, I don't know, more views than any video I'd ever had at the time. And it initially, much like today, so I guess not much has changed, it had a very negative reception at first. So that started getting traction, started getting more popular. And that's when I broke, like, my first threshold to make money. And then I figured, like, I can keep doing this. And it might sound scummy. It might sound scummy that, like, oh, you're stealing somebody else's content. It's like, it's really just taking the formula. But in reality, I'm the one that gets the footage for the video. I make the subtitles. I write the jokes. It's like, I'm just doing what they do, but in my own style. I always made it a point to say, like, this is them. This is their thing. Yeah. I'm not taking credit for it. I'm not saying this is my property. If you don't, and that's another thing, if you don't know their style of humor, their sense of humor, watch them first. Otherwise, you're going to hate me. But people don't like to listen, and they hate me anyway. So, yeah.
So, I don't mean to come off too, I guess I'll call it kiss-assy, but, I've always really enjoyed your Everything Wrong With, and in preparation for these interviews, I binge the content of who I'm going to interview, because I want to know their stuff.
Right.
I don't want to go in this and just be ignorant. Like, I do know you. Obviously, I've been a fan of you for a while. I'm usually a part of your streams when I'm not too busy.
Right, of course.
And
I love having you there.
Through binging these, one thing I've noticed is your pacing is unbelievable. Like, it flows so well. Like, the jokes are great.
Thank you.
One thing that really stuck out to me is everything's just so smooth that it works how it should work.
Right.
It works like Cinnamon Sins does, which their pacing is unbelievable.
Right.
And it cannot be easy to edit pacing that way. The very little editing I've done for podcasts so far, it's hell. Right.
No, yeah. Editing is absolute. Like, my favorite editing is actually the audio. Editing the video itself, I don't really like. I go into, like, auto mode when I do it. I think it's funny you mentioned that, because recently I've been updating my thumbnails, and so sometimes I have to go into other videos and be like, oh, I have to copy this link or whatever. And so I hear myself in those older videos, and what I wanted to do at first was mimic CinemaSins 100%. Like, I try to do Jeremy's style of voice, like the very same, like the same way he did his intonations, the same pacing he had, all that stuff. And what that resulted in was a very, like, fast-paced, voice acting. So I would say things very fast. This is that. Like, I would do it like that and, deliver joke. Mm-hmm. And as the years have gone by, I've sort of, I don't know when it started happening, but I sort of, like, told myself subconsciously, I guess, like, you don't need to do that. Like, you don't need to imitate them. And I think that our personas are very different in that sense. Like, Jeremy is a very, calm, collected dude. And I think that's mostly where the humor comes from, that, like, he's so collected that when he does blow up, it's hilarious. And I think part of mine, and especially, like, if you look back on stuff like Adventure 2, where I get very explosive. In fact, I remember having friends tell me back in the day, like, you sounded really angry during that. I'm like, I can assure you I'm not angry. I'm just like doing the acting. And I think I do pace myself better now because I'm allowed to like read my own scripts, know my own jokes, not force them like out quickly. I'm just trying to like, okay, this is the joke. Doing this as well, I hesitate to call myself a comedian, but it has sort of opened my eyes to the world of comedy. I've always loved comedy, but I never thought of myself as a very funny person. But I think doing this has helped me sort of become that. Not a funny person, but like to understand comedy a little bit better, understand pacing, understand timing, I think timing is a huge factor in it too, because sometimes I can cut my line very quickly, or sometimes I leave like a second or two after what I say to let it sink in. And really it's such a natural. What I love about it is that it's not a calculated thing. It's not something that I go into thinking like, okay, how many seconds should I leave after this? It's like, no, bam. Does this feel right? Cool. Like I don't have to. And that's my process for writing jokes too. Like a lot of people revise their script 1, 2, 3 times. Mine is like the first stupid thing that comes into my head, write that down, and that's it. Like I
love that.
I seldom edit my scripts because if I do, then the joke sounds forced and it's just not funny. But at the same time, there are comedic geniuses who work for jokes. They're like, how can I make this funny? Damn it, how can I make this funny? But at the same time, there's something that I've heard that I think is 100% true. At one point, every comedy was improvised. Like at some point, every joke you've ever heard was thought up of on the spot. And I think that's when comedy works the best.
Do you think because you do stream and that's improv, you're doing hours of improv, and you're usually super funny. I love your streams because you're quick with a joke. You're just boom, you're in it, and I don't think you realize what you're saying is funny sometimes. You're just kind of reacting to what's going on, which makes it even funnier.
The thing with that is that when I first started streaming, I was awful. I'd never really done something like that before, and I think everyone might suck when they first start, but like I particularly sucked at it. Like I was very nervous. I wouldn't say anything. Like my first co-host was actually Nathaniel Bandy, and there were lots. Like he was teaching me the ropes of like how streaming worked because I had no idea, and I had him on to like co-host with me, and there were times like he and I can go at it for hours. We can like talk for hours on end, but during some of those first streams, like the conversation just came to a lull. Like I had nothing to say. He had nothing to say. Like there was just nothing. There was nothing between us. And when I started streaming more regularly, I started streaming with my friend Cassie, who shares with me the love for story in games. And the first game we ever did was Undertale, and that's where we started to sort of get a feel not only for each other as friends, because we'd only met each other recently, but for like improv stuff and comedy stuff. And like you said, sometimes people don't realize what they're saying is funny, and that makes it even more funny. And when you said that, it made me think back to this last Persona stream, because I plan to make a video on it on the future. It's a very long game, so I've been at it for a couple months now, and there's certain jokes I'll make, but the thing is, I'm giggling to myself, and you can hear that because I think it's funny, and I'm just like, okay, well, if I think it's funny, maybe people will think it's funny too. But there's certain jokes that I make that I'm just like, I say super straight faced, and people are just going nuts in the chat, like laughing so hard at that joke, and I'm just like, really? That was funny? Okay, I'm glad you guys found it funny, but I don't know. I guess it didn't hit me as hard as it hit you guys.
Shout out to your stream chats too. Usually a great place.
Yeah.
No trolls, which is very nice.
With the subscriber count I have, I don't really get a large audience when it comes to stream, and we've sort of come to the consensus that that's a good thing, because the bigger someone's audience gets, the more likely it is that you'll have, trolls or people who are spam or being annoying and like that. I love my Twitch chat because they understand, they understand me as a person. They understand limits, boundaries. They're very good people. They're very like-minded people. They've been through very similar situations, and I think that makes it good. Would I like to have a bigger audience? Sure, of course, anyone would. But at the same time, it's like I also like the feeling of, we have 20 to 30 people, and that makes it easier to communicate with these people and, have one-on-one conversations. And if they make a joke, I can react to it. And the chat isn't scrolling at 200 miles an hour, But yeah, shout outs to them.
Yeah, and no, it's just something, you and D-Pad Gamer are two of my favorite to participate in the chat in, because it's, it's a nice number. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it's not scrolling super fast, and everybody's always respectful. If someone says something stupid, people are quick to call it out, like, hey, don't be a dick about anything. And it's nice because like I had told you before we started this that my link to you was Nathaniel Bandy, and he's since started following, like we've talked about, kind of exploded in popularity, right? And I still enjoy his streams, but it's just so fast, and I don't know how he does it.
He makes
there's
great...
a lot of it.
Yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying. Like, he makes great content. His streams are always very fun, but like you said, the chat goes by so fast that it's so weird that he's able to keep up with questions sometimes, and people are just asking the same things over and over, and
like Pink Old Peach,
yeah, it's just like we get it, like there's the joke and people appreciate the joke, but everyone's doing it. Ask something more interesting or original, or I don't know, just you can say anything that people haven't already said before. So
I think there's a weird balance that people have to find. Like, so we talked off air, and I have kids, and my oldest is around 7, and of course when we talk about he wants to start his own YouTube channel, and it was the cutest thing. The other day he was like, "Hey Daddy, when we make my channel, will you and Mommy subscribe to it?" It's just so sweet. And I'm like, he's if he asks me to hit that like button and all that, I'm gonna lose it. But
Mom, Dad, can you hit that bell?
Make sure, because the algorithm, Dad.
Yeah.
There's the weird balance where, like, I think a lot of the people who, like I said, for lack of a better term, are spamming some of that stuff, don't know how to communicate or relate to the streamer, because it is a weird relationship.
Right.
Like on one end, the fan who's watching is unanimous. It's you don't see them, you see a text pop on the screen from them, but for them. So, for example, they're getting an intimate interaction with you.
Of course.
You're on their phone, they're on their computer. So they're trying, some people are just trying to say that thing that gets you to notice them, but they're not necessarily trying to be annoying about it.
No, yeah,
so it's
I completely...
a weird, hard line for, I think, and I'm socially inept, and even when I message or send things in your streams or Nathaniel's or D-Pads, I'm like, oh god, should I send this? Is it funny? Is it weird? Is it not on topic enough? Right. Oh god, enter.
Right. No, I completely understand. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I try to be conscious about that all the time, in the sense that I've sort of been there. I've been in the position where I'm like, oh, I want to say this, and I want them to notice me. Because you're right, you're absolutely right. It is a more intimate relationship with the viewer, because that's the thing. Like, when it comes to it's a very different medium than what a lot of people are used to, especially people from our generation and older. We grew up on TV, where there's no possible way of interacting with anyone unless you call in or you send a letter or something, and that'll take weeks, or they might not pick up the phone. But with the internet and streaming and commenting and stuff, there's a real connection with the audience and the creator, especially when it comes to streaming, because it's live. And And I 100% understand that. But like you said, there is a balance that needs to be, found between like sort of getting the hint. And unfortunately, I understand that a lot of people can't get the hint, not because they're annoying, but because they legitimately think, oh, maybe he hasn't seen my message yet. Maybe if I send it again, he'll notice it. And it's like, I don't know a nice way to say this, but if my chat isn't really going that fast, I've most likely seen your comment, and I'm trying to not answer it. Like as dickish as that seems, it's like sometimes it is the truth, and it's just like I'd rather not answer that question, and I don't want to call you out and make you feel bad about it. Like I don't want to say like, hey, I saw your thing, I'm not gonna answer you though, 'cause like I don't know, it's weird. But yeah, like I completely I get that sentiment. I understand like. And that's why I try to be very tactful with people. I try not to get upset with people. I try not to get angry at them because I know that they can't help it.
One of the things that like I will always respect, and I'm always going to follow you because of this, is how open you are about certain mental health things.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about this again. I don't want to keep saying we're talking about this, but
that's fine. It's good to bring it back up because otherwise, what would people be listening to?
I am about 6-7 years older than you, and when I was growing up, mental health was still, I guess stigma would be the word.
Yeah.
It just was like you didn't talk about it. Like there wasn't mental, and we knew of mental disorders, blah blah blah, but it was more like you need to get over it type of deal, or you need to figure your shit out,
especially in like
not
cases of anxiety. It's especially that because like
yes.
in our time when we grew up, it was like, oh, mental disorders are like schizophrenia and like stuff along those lines, where it's like, oh, you're a very disturbed individual. We didn't consider anxiety, depression, stuff like that. We didn't consider those technically as mental illnesses. We were just like, oh, walk it off, like you said, get over it.
Yeah, I didn't go to therapy till I was in my mid-20s because, like you said, it was only crazy people had mental disorders. I always thought like, well, if I go to a therapist, then they're obviously gonna put me in, a crazy house because only, like you said, schizophrenia and all that. Like those are the only people that have mental disorders, and I am so happy that there's a generation of kids coming up, and even like like me being older than you, it's still inspirational to me to see you be like, hey, I feel this way.
Yeah,
you might feel this way, and that's okay. Here are the things you can do to try to get help or work through it. But just know it's not just you. It's, all of us have something. And I don't mean to get all kind of sappy.
No. I mean, I think I'm about to, so feel free.
My kids, I don't want to keep harping on the dad thing, but I know they're watching people that see them as people, that they're going to be like, oh, well, I feel sad or anxious sometimes, and he said he does too. Mm-hmm. That means a lot to people. And, I can't thank you enough for that.
Absolutely. Well, I guess it's my turn to get all sappy about that. And I might like talk your ear off for an hour, so I apologize. Because this is a huge topic. Not just for me, not just for you, but for like a lot of people. And I don't know, maybe telling my story and putting it out there might be good. And I don't know, like you said, if it helps people, then I'm happy to oblige and let people know, because I suffer from anxiety, not social anxiety. In fact, I don't think I'd even be in this interview right now if I suffered from social anxiety, because I don't know. I think at one point I might have had social anxiety because I dreaded speaking in front of a group of people, or speaking to people in general. But like I overcame that during like high school, and we can get into that. But we talked about it earlier about how when I was a kid, everything would scare me. My mind would go to the worst possible thing, and that's been around in my life for as long as I can remember. My dad, like I said, I know we said this off air, but like my dad used to work at a landscaping company when I was a kid, and as far back as I can remember, we lived on a property owned by the manager of that landscaping company, and it was like literally next door. So my dad worked like next door at this company, and everything was good. Like I didn't really, there was nothing wrong with it, but there was always, and this might, I don't know if it'll offend people or what, but I say this because it's me. There was something wrong with me. Like, there was nothing wrong with our situation. We didn't, have any issues. Oh, it's raining. I don't know if that's going to come up on the mic.
No, we're good. I don't hear anything.
Everything was fine. Everything was good. But I knew there was something wrong with me because I had a very hard time making friends. In fact, some of my oldest memories, I remember doing the "Star Shine, Star Bright, First Star I See Tonight," like sort of chant when I would see like a star in the sky at night, and I would like my one desire, my one thing that I wanted was to have a friend, because I didn't have friends when I was a kid. Like, I would hang out with my cousins, but they were like a couple years older than me, and looking back, I knew like, oh, they didn't want to hang out with me. I was probably like really clingy and, I don't know, annoying. My sister was born, but I was supposed to be very delicate with her, and I couldn't really hang out with her. As a kid, I thought she was annoying. Now she's like one of my best friends, but like as a kid, I thought, what a lot of kids my age probably thought back then, like, oh, my little sister's annoying, I don't like her. And then we moved to a town that was like an hour or two away, but my dad kept his job at that landscaping company, so it was get up early, drive there, and he wouldn't get back until like 7 or 8 at night, I think. So there were nights where he would be late, and I didn't really understand the concept of being late. I didn't understand the concept of unforeseen events happening that cause you to be late. So whenever my dad was late, immediately my mind was something happened. Something bad happened. I would start freaking out. I would start getting very anxious. I would break down in tears and like cry to my mom asking where my dad was and being very afraid. Whenever my mom wasn't around, I'd freak out. Whenever an authority figure I trusted wasn't around, like, you could not leave me alone. Like, I needed to have an adult around because I couldn't bear not having an authority figure around, because I don't know. That was just the way my mind worked. And I guess at some point my parents realized, or my mom realized, that something was up with me, that this was not normal behavior, or not behavior she was used to. And around 7 or 8, when I was 7 or 8, she took me to therapy. And I won't say I hated it, but I didn't like it either. In fact, for the longest time, I always thought to myself, like, oh, therapy is a bunch of bullshit. Like, it's stupid, it doesn't work. Because it didn't work for me. Like, it didn't get rid of anything I had. And the problem, I think, was I was made aware that I had anxiety, but I guess I blocked it out of my mind, because in my mind it was like, there's something wrong with me, and I didn't want to feel that way. I didn't want to feel like already I'm screwed enough as it is. I'm like a weird kid as it is, but then you're telling me that there's something wrong with who I am, which technically no, there's nothing wrong with who I am, but like it is like a condition that I have, and I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel like there's something wrong with me. Ironic, Yeah. But like the therapist who saw me, like, she would give me activities, talking about making me write about my anxiety, all that stuff. I remember sessions I'd have with her, and like asking me to like tell her how I felt and stuff. And I guess I was too proud, or I don't know what it was, that I wasn't very open with my emotions or how I felt. And I guess I did sort of express myself a little bit through drawing. I remember one session with her, she asked me to draw how I was feeling. And I don't know why this memory stuck with me so well. I don't know why. But she left me alone. Like she left the room. She left me to do whatever I wanted. And I remember I drew a dog, a cat, and a bird. I think it was a bird. And they were like they were like chilling underneath a tree. They were daydreaming. In the dog's dream, he was a wolf. In the cat's dream, he was a lion. And in the bird's dream, they were an eagle. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a licensed therapist, even though I'm very interested in like psychology. But I look back on that and I'm like, maybe I just wanted to be a better version of what I was. Like, I was just a scared little kid, and I wanted to be a brave, like, I don't know, something big. And like I said, I wasn't very open with my emotions or anything. Because of a lack of friends, I would talk to myself a lot. And sometimes I still do. You know, I think that absolutely helped me with streaming and, you know, stuff like this, where I can talk for hours and hours and hours, just because I had the practice when I was a kid. And that got some pretty weird looks from people too. So I would try to not do it in front of people. And then when I was around when I was 9, we moved to Mexico because that's where my parents are originally from. So we moved here to what I consider my hometown. I've lived here half my life. But we moved when I was about to enter the 4th grade, and the school system here and there are very different. So I had to adapt from my American style of school and life to a Mexican one. And Mexican, not to be racist against my own kind, but Mexican kids are really mean. You know, like, people complain about bullying in the States, and absolutely, like, bullying is a big problem. Especially when it gets to physical violence and physical bullying. Physical bullying is not a huge issue in Mexico, but emotional abuse absolutely is. And it was a huge issue when I was a kid, especially. Like, if before I didn't have friends, now I had less friends because everyone saw me as like, oh, you're the American kid. You're like, why did you come here? You know, like, stuff like that. So I had less friends than I did before, which was already very limited. Sometimes they would see me talking to myself and they'd think I was really weird. And, you know, that made me scared. That made me scared of what people thought about me, and, you know, a lot of stuff like that. I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, you know, being a father, that you have kids who can, like, one day look at content online and be like, oh, I'm having these issues, and they are too. So that makes me feel safe. That makes me feel better about myself. I've never had that. I don't think I've ever. I'm always a huge advocate for other people. I'm way more positive with people than I am with myself. Because with people, I'm like, oh, you can do it. You can set your mind to it. You can do this. You can do that. You know, like, you just need a little push. You just need this. And, like, when it comes to myself in similar situations, I always bring myself down. And I don't know why I do that. Because I'm always like, no, you won't be able to do this. No, I know for a fact that I'm a loser, or that I can't do this, or that, you know, you're a hack. You know, your friends are so much better than you. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just that's how I know that, like, my anxiety is still there and it hasn't left me.
Yeah. As a fellow anxiety sufferer, I think we and mine turned into, like, OCD problems, but we can talk about that later. But anxiety keeps you in a ball of fear and sometimes failure, and it's almost like you keep yourself down because you're used to that ball of fear and failure being in it, and to get out of it is new and scary, and having anxiety, new and scary is bad.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You know?
I agree.
It's a catch-22.
It really is. And it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but, like, it's interesting because different people react differently to different things, especially people with anxiety and OCD and these other mental disorders. Like I said, I must have blocked out the fact that I had anxiety as a kid. I found a binder 5 years ago, incidentally. Back in 2014, I found a binder with my old like anxiety diary entries, my old like exercises that my therapist had me do. I didn't know those existed, and when I found them, I was reading through them, and I could tell that even like as a kid, I tried to not talk about it. I didn't. I would lie to myself and lie to like my therapist by saying that my anxiety was getting better in the diary, like in the entries, like, oh, my anxiety is it was a little better today. It's like, I don't think that's true. But seeing that, it kind of, it sort of changed my perspective a little bit. Like, it didn't make me feel better about myself, but I sort of was like, oh, I get it. You know, like, I have anxiety. Okay, I get it. Because, like, I'm a nail biter. I'm a nail biter, and people have always said, like, oh, why do you bite your nails? Are you anxious? Are you nervous? I'm like, no. And I truly believe that that's not the reason. Like, I don't think that I bite my nails because I'm anxious. It's just, you know, a habit I have, like, to get them neat. You know, like, I don't know. I've never rationalized it as I do it because I'm anxious. Like, I don't do it when I'm nervous. I normally do it when I'm bored. Like, when I don't have anything to do, I'm just like, okay. It's a bad habit. I've tried stopping many times, and hopefully this last time I've done pretty well, but, you know, every so often I go back to it. But like that was sort of people's indication that maybe I had anxiety. And then when I checked those documents and found out that I did, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, like, and I was fine with it. Like, it wasn't like oh my God, I finally know what's wrong with me. Like, no, not really. It was just like, oh, okay, I get it. that makes sense. But I do think absolutely that it is something you can overcome. Like I said, when I moved, I was in 4th grade, so I was still in elementary school. When I got to middle school, it got worse somehow. Like, I started to have friends, and I made friends who were like really cool, even though sometimes they weren't, which sucks. But, you know, middle school, so whatever.
Yeah, middle school is the worst.
I hate, like, we'll get into it in just a little bit, but like, I went to high school with some of the people I went to middle school with, and they remember middle school fondly. They're like, oh man, I miss middle school. Middle school was great. I'm like, middle school fucking sucked. Like, it was great for you because you had all your friends and like you were doing well. Meanwhile, everyone wanted to pick a fight with me just because I'm a big dude, and they want to like fight the biggest dude around. And I'm not a troublemaker. I'm not like you guys. So like, immediately that makes me a target for some reason. I wasn't a bad student, but like, I don't look back on my middle school years fondly. Like, I look back to my teachers fondly because they were good. Some of my friends I look back on fondly because they were great people, and I'm sure they still are, even though I haven't seen them in years. But it was not a time I'd redo because it was rough. And I was still like my kind of awkward person. I wouldn't like speak up for myself. I was still very shy. In fact, that was how I rationalized it as a kid. I rationalized it as me being shy. Because I was a shy kid. So when middle school was done, I was like, oh, thank God that's done. I moved on to high school. And when I get to high school, I think I'm not going to be me anymore. I'm not going to be who I am anymore. I'm going to change who I am, how I deal with situations. Well, not really who I am. Like, I still like the same things. I still think similarly. But, like, the way I approach things and the way I look at things, I'm going to change that. I'm going to try to be more accessible. I'm going to try to be a better person. And this is a memory I hold very dear to me. The first day of high school, I'm surrounded by my classmates and everything. We do uniforms over here in Mexico, and I'm the only idiot with a uniform, because everyone else went in like their everyday clothes because they could. Like, it's not very often that you get that chance, so they took it. So I'm around everyone. Nobody knows anyone, so everyone's silent. Everyone feels very awkward. Everyone, like, they're not very trusting. So I start to make jokes like, oh, so this is awkward, huh? Like I'm trying to lighten the mood for everyone, and I see very positive responses. People start laughing, which was something I was never able. Like any time when I was a kid that someone would laugh at something I would say, it was usually something embarrassing. It was usually something that I didn't want them to laugh at, and if they did, I'd have to laugh along because I'm like, oh God, I just embarrassed myself. Oh no. But this was like among the first times I'd ever said something to a group of strangers and it made them genuinely laugh. Like, and it felt great because I started to make them feel safe. I started to make them feel like, hey, come on, it's not a big deal. We're going to get to know each other for the rest of the year. We might as well start now, you know? And that was such a huge turning point for me because it helped boost my confidence. Even though, you know, in certain respects, my confidence is still very low. You know, I guess to be a bit specific towards my own anxiety, I don't consider myself a super talented person. I don't consider myself a very attractive person. I don't consider myself sometimes even a good person, mostly because I don't like to think of myself as like, oh, look at me, I'm so great. Aren't I just great, Brock? You know, like I don't want to think of myself like that. So it was definitely a turning point. And then what made it even better and what was definitely a confidence boost was in high school, there was an event. There was sort of like a beauty pageant of sorts. And a classmate of mine asked me like, hey, I was going to do a performance, like a musical performance with this teacher, but he's not going to be able to be there. Do you sing? I've heard you sing a couple times. Do you want to sing with me? Normally, you know, like younger middle school, elementary school, even early high school now would have said, no, thank you. I'm good. Yeah, thank you though. Like I straight up would have said no, but I figured, you know what? I need to do this. I need to do this because, well, it didn't even feel like it was something I had to do. It was something that I kind of had to do for me. It was something that I'm like, you know what? I've been a negative Nancy my whole life. I'm going to say yes for once. I'm going to go ahead and do this because why not? So I said yes. We had like a week to practice. And actually, you can find the video on my YouTube channel. I do a cover of Maroon 5's Payphone, which was sort of popular at the time. And we studied it, we practiced it. I was nervous as hell that day on the day that we actually performed in front of the school. It was a bunch of people, a bunch of strangers I'd never even seen in my life. And I'm gonna sing in front of them, like, oh my God. So I was nervous as hell. My hands were freezing. I don't know. It was just really scary. And I went out there and I think I did well. You know, like people started cheering. People loved it. People were asking for more. And I was like, I did it. You know, like by the end of it, I felt like someone had kicked me really hard in the balls. Like that was just how nervous I was that once that ended, I was just like, oh God. Oh, the relief. But that was definitely another thing that boosted my confidence. And I think that absolutely helped with developing my channel itself too. I think a lot of people like the sort of anonymity of the internet, like you said earlier, where, you know, even if you're showing your face on a camera or like you're doing Let's Plays, you're not showing your face. It's just your voice. People feel and they find a sort of comfort with that, and that's great. But I think you also need to develop that sense of confidence within yourself as well. Like you need to feel like, okay, I got this. You know, like don't get cocky, obviously, but also do feel like, okay, I'm capable enough of doing this. Because if you doubt yourself for a second, if you're like, can I do this though? A lot of it's gonna fall apart. And I don't know, like a lot of people like yourself and a lot of, you know, most of my Twitch chat and community, they come to me with their own problems and they tell me like, hey, I'm feeling this way or I'm not feeling very good, and I 100% get it, because I don't know, the world is a very nasty place, especially nowadays.
Now it's awful.
And I mean, I feel like that's also kind of cliche to say, where it's like, oh, everything sucks. It's like, we're good in a lot of respects. We're the best we've been in the history of our planet in a lot of ways, but people can still be very negative about themselves, about each other. And that's just not good. And I know what it's like to be in the position where people are negative about you, and people don't like you, and people make fun of you, and people harass you, and, you know, your feelings are hurt because they don't know what it's like for you to have to go back home and cry about everything you were teased about. And then if they find out that you were crying because of that, they'll tease you for it. Like, oh, did I hurt your feelings? And like I said, I know what that's like. I've been there. And that's why, like, you do everything you can to try to make this world a bit of a better place. That's why if I'm proud about anything, which I can be a very proud person as well, which is another negative thing about me, I do take pride in what I do. I do take pride in the fact that I can make people laugh, because as much as I would love to make my own original stuff, you know, be more of an artist, be more of an animator, stuff like that, more than anything, I've come to appreciate the fact that I can make people laugh, because sometimes people are having really shitty days, be it work, be it school, be it other responsibilities that they have to attend to during the day, and then to be able to come home and join a stream and be with people that appreciate them and like them, or watch a stupid video of mine where I'm, you know, screaming at a video game, and that makes their day a little better, and it makes them forget about how crappy life can be sometimes, then that's good. I think of that as a very good thing, because we all have to try to make the world a better place, you know, just a little bit. And I as stupid as it might sound, because it probably does sound really silly, there have been times where I've cried, where I'm just like, it is so unfair that people can be such dicks about things, that people can be so negative. Like, sometimes when I'm feeling like particularly crappy, I'll go on to like the internet and just look up wholesome things. Like, look up people who are giving money away, people who are giving clothes away, people who are giving. But I just recently went to PAX East in Boston, and the night before, a scorpion stung my sister, which around this time of year is kind of common. It's serious, but it's not as serious as one might think. So we
Okay, so as a kid who grew up exclusively in Midwest America, you say scorpion stung my sister. It's commonest time of year. My brain is like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, this seems super dangerous. Why don't you burn them all?
I wish we could. I've been stung by a couple in my time, but
they're just casual stings? Like, I always assumed you got stung and you died.
You get stung what?
I always assumed that when you got stung, you know, they're like super venomous and everyone dies.
No.
You know, never being around them, I was like, oh god, they're the most. They just look like they kill you.
Probably the bigger ones. I don't know, but like over here we have like smaller ones. They're not like the stereotypical like big black ones. They're like small. They're small brown ones, which I think might be even more dangerous. I'm not sure, but fortunately, like hospitals have antidotes and stuff that they can give you. So we took my sister to that. It was very late at night. I had a flight the next day. Where I'm going with the story was my mother and I, we were outside in the car, just waiting for my sister to be discharged from the hospital. Cause it's usually like they give you the antidote and they keep you in observation for a couple hours, then you're free to go. But we were waiting there, and outside of the hospital, because there aren't really comfortable facilities inside the hospital to like lay down, we see a man and his son, and they're like laying outside the hospital. And it's the middle of the night. It's cold. It's not below freezing, fortunately, but it's still like cold by our standards. And that sucks. And there was another family that brought they brought like a teenager in, because he got into an accident or something. I don't quite remember what it was, but they were leaving. The teen had just gotten discharged from the hospital himself, and they were leaving, and they saw this guy and his child like outside. The dad was hugging the kid. The kid was like 4 years old, probably less. And they go up to him and they give him a blanket. And I don't know. I was like, right now, I was at a loss for words. I'm just like, that just makes me so happy. Like seeing the kindness of people when they're just like, when they're in a pretty bad situation themselves, they help out, and that's just more of what we need. Just
that story makes me want to cry.
And like I teared up, and I'm just like, man, I just wish more stuff like this would happen, because we get so scared of helping people because we're afraid that they'll take advantage of us, and it's a real fear. It's a real fear to be taken advantage of, but at the same time, it's like sometimes we need to take that chance. We need to take the chance that maybe they won't take advantage of us. Maybe they will be the good people we want them to be, and help out, because I don't know. I hate telling stories about myself, just because I don't want it to seem like, oh, look at me, look at what a good person I am. We moved to Florida a couple years ago. We came back, obviously, but my family and I moved to Florida a couple years ago, and we had never been in a hurricane before, and we were about to get hit by a big one, which ended up not being a big deal for where we lived, but we were still kind of freaked out about it. And in Florida, I've always said that if you're not a Latino, you're an old person. Just because there's so many like Cubans, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, so many like Latin American people living in Florida, and a lot of older people retire to Florida.
Yes.
So that for that hurricane, I think it was Hurricane Maria, we went to a shelter at a school. Like I said, we'd never been through one, and we were being cautious. We didn't want to be at our apartment when it hit. And, we were there. We were already in our place. We had everything set up. And I figured, like, there are so many people right now that are trying to load their stuff into the school because they're just now getting here. They're old. They're slow. So we get our stuff done quick. I just go and help everyone else. Like, anyone I see, I'm just like, ma'am, can I help you carry your stuff? Sir, can I help you carry your stuff? And I just wanted to help. And some people took me up on it. Other people were like, no, it's fine. Thank you. And I'll always remember this one couple. They were an older couple. I want to say like in their 70s, probably older. And they had like blankets, sheets, stuff like that they wanted to bring in with them. And heavier stuff too, that I could like. They were going at a very slow pace, and I'm just like, I can help you with that. I can absolutely help you with that. And they let me, and they were great people. You could tell that they were a little bit older because they didn't really understand like the Hispanic lifestyle. So like I was happy to explain a few things to them. And at the end of it, I helped carry their stuff back with them to their car. Because we were all leaving, the hurricane had passed, everything was fine. A few trees and fences had been blown over because it was just that strong, but there were no casualties, fortunately. And when I helped them get back to their car and everything, the man gives me $20, and I'm just like, no, sir, you can't. And like, he just grabs my hand, puts the money in my hand, closes my fist and he's like, keep it. And I'm just like, thank you. Like, I'm not going to fight him on it. I'm not like, okay, clearly
Right.
you want to do this. I'm not going to fight you on it. Cause that would probably be rude. But like, as soon as they left, I just teared up and I'm just like, I don't know. You know, like I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing the, and I'm not even doing it for recognition either. I'm not doing it because like I want people to know. Like, I don't know.
It's okay to feel satisfaction, you know, and helping someone, because I mean that's just how we're programmed, you know. And I've worked, you know, I've been working since I was 15, and I've had situations not exactly the same, but like working restaurants and people will tip sometimes like $30-$40 on a $10 check. You're like, you know, no. I just brought you drinks, you know, in a timely fashion. You worked hard for your money. I'm not doing anything. They're like, no, you know, this means something to you. And you know, it does touch you. Like, and like you said, you can't argue for them to not take it because, you know, you feel rude. But it's okay to feel good about yourself. It's okay to feel proud when you do something like that. I think that's something that I like that you touched on, that people can understand it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, be proud of the good things you do. So I guess we'll kind of bring up the mood a little bit. We kind of got serious there for a while. But I love it. I love that you're so open to being honest about those things.
Like you said, sometimes people do need to hear it, and I'm personally not one of those people, but if it's something that you need to hear, you know, you even if it feels like the end of the world, like you said, you started going to therapy when you were like in college. Despite everything I have, I still feel very negatively about myself. I didn't really start loving myself until last year, where I came to an epiphany where I'm like, the reason I'm so depressed and so, because like I've never been clinically diagnosed, but I'm sure that I have some form of depression. The reason why it bums me out so much is because I want things to be better for myself. Like if I didn't
Right.
care about myself and my feelings, I wouldn't cry over it. I wouldn't be sad about it, because I'd just be like, oh, whatever, it happens, you know, who cares? But I do cry because it hurts me, and I don't want to be hurt. So clearly I care about myself if it hurts me enough to the point where I cry about it. So that's where I kind of realized, like, I do love myself, and I do sort of want things... No, not sort of. I do want things to get better for me. So there are times where I have, you know, anxiety during the night, like right before I'm about to go to sleep, where I'm like, oh, this person doesn't love you. Oh, this person's just using you. Oh, you'll never amount to this, or you'll never get that. This is never going to happen. Those are the moments where I'm just like, I want to go to like a therapist right now and like tell them what's going on. But like during my waking life, I'm mostly fine, unless like something's got me stressed out, but like I'm mostly doing okay. And you know, just as a closer to this like kind of heavy topic, like if you need help, you know, seek it. It doesn't need to be a professional, you know, like a professional is preferred, obviously, because they're qualified to help you with this. But like, if you feel the need to talk to anybody, do it. You know, do it with someone that you know will listen to you, someone who will help you out. My friends have done wonders for me over the years. Like just the fact that they've been able to listen, and if someone comes to you with problems like this, you don't always have to give your opinion. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just listen to what they have to say. Yep. Let them get it off their chest, and that's enough. Like really, sometimes people just want to be heard, even if they're wrong. Just let people talk, and they can start getting better from there. And
can I tell you a real quick story about my first brush with therapy? And this is one of those, I laugh at my I guess you would call it tragic events in my life. Right. So I was a non-traditional college student. I did a year of community college, and then I transferred to a college, and I transferred to a school somewhat close to where I grew up because I was still dating my high school sweetheart, and it was only about an hour away. And about a month into it, found out she was cheating on me with somebody because she was still in high school. She was a senior.
Yeah, that's.
And I was, that was rough, right?
Really, yeah.
And we broke up, lost 18 pounds in like 2 weeks. I just stopped eating. Like, I didn't have any friends there because I would go home after I was done with class. I would come to my room, do homework until she got home from school. I would talk to her on the phone for a few hours, unless she had like, an event she was at. Then I would go home on the weekends to see her. So I had no friends. And, we break up. I'm losing all this weight. I'm depressed. I feel, awful. I need help. So I'm like, okay. And this is like, I haven't done therapy yet. Still a little bit of that stigma to it. The college offers free therapy. All you gotta do is call and schedule it. And the therapist comes to campus, and you meet him in a room, and they work with you, and that's awesome. That's a great service my school provided. So I contact the lady who runs it. She's like, okay, we got you a date. You're going to meet the therapist at 2 o'clock this day. You meet him in this room. So, like, I think it was like a week or so I had to wait. Like, super nervous. And I keep wanting to cancel, but I don't because I need this. I need this. I need this. I want to get better. I want to make friends. I want to be able to move on from this thing that's breaking my heart. And day comes. I go there, go into the room, sit in the chair, and I wait. 5 minutes goes by. The appointment time. Like, yeah, well, people run late. It happens. 10 minutes go by. Well, that's weird, but whatever. 20 minutes goes by. I'm like, okay, this is awkward. What's happening?
Right, yeah.
I'm sitting here. About a half hour goes by. I'm like, okay, something's not right. So I leave, go back to my room, call the lady who runs it, and they're like, oh, yeah, the therapist just forgot about you.
Oh, God, like, what awful irony. That's like... Right. I mean, not to get like super depressing, but that kind of stuff leads people to do very drastic things. Like a lot of people would like take that as a sign, like, oh, maybe I'm not worth it. It's like, dude, you can't forget about your clients.
I'm sure there was more to it, but that's what I remember, and it's been 8-9 years. But it was basically like, yeah, they messed up, like they forgot that they had an appointment with you. And it's just like, really? Like, after all I've been through, I finally was willing to take that step, and do this thing that's scary and new, but I want to get better. And it's like, nope, we're going to kick you in the pants one more time.
Actually, it's funny you say that. That story actually reminds me of another story of mine that actually, it's kind of similar. So I mentioned it earlier. Back in 2014, it's the year that I look back on with like super bad memories of that year. A lot of bad stuff happened. The year I graduated from high school, all that stuff. In high school, I had a teacher who was a psychologist. Very young. She's probably about your age. Actually, no. She's a couple of years older than you.
Okay.
Awesome teacher, awesome person to talk to, very authoritative. When she needed to get serious, she was serious, but normally she was like really cool to be around. You could talk to her like a friend, everything. And she gave us like certain psychology classes and stuff like that. She was also like a counsel at the school, like not specifically, but like you could ask to talk to her and she'd talk to you. But I wasn't at school anymore. I'd already graduated, and I was just at my wit's end. This was before like YouTube really started to take off. I was with Frederator and stuff, but like I wasn't really making money. I was still out of a job. There were plenty of factors that year that I'm not sure if I inherently want to get into.
Right. Now you don't have to step in
Right.
where you don't feel comfortable.
And it's not that I don't feel comfortable. It's more so that like I don't really mind talking about it. It's just I don't know if it's good for me to. But
right.
But a lot of bad things happened, and I was going through personal stuff, even certain stuff that like didn't really affect me. It was still stuff that I'm like, oh, this kind of bums me out. It kind of bums me out. I was like super in a bad place. So I figure I have her number. Let me call her up. I don't even remember why I had her number actually, now that I think about it. But I did. I think I might have like gotten it from the outside of her clinic. But I call her and tell her like, hey, would it be okay if I go in for a session with you? She's like, yeah, absolutely. Anytime you want, like I'm here, just let me know and we can schedule something. Okay, cool. We schedule it. I go. I don't think I told my parents where I was going. I just told them I was going out for a walk, I think. Because I didn't want to like trouble them. I didn't want them to know that like, oh, I'm going to go see a therapist, Yeah. I go, and she's there. I couldn't have been her first client of the day, but like she saw me. It was kind of like a courtesy session, really. Like she wasn't gonna charge me for it because I hadn't started anything with her. But I go in. She's like, "Oh, hi, have you been?" Like she and I have always been on great terms. Like I'd wager to say that we're actually friends, even though we haven't spoken in a long time. But like we were on that sort of level, even during high school. And I tell her like, I'm doing really bad. Like I'm not doing good. And I tell her everything. Like I pour my heart out to her. I tell her like everything that's been going wrong, everything that has got me down, all the reasons I'm sad, everything that sucks. And she let me go on and on and on. Like I told her pretty much everything that was going through my mind at the moment. And she had never known me to be that kind of guy. Like I'm sure she never thought of me as like someone who would be defeated by stuff like that, or that had any issues. And after seeing all that, she just goes to me and she tells me, "Can I ask you something?" And I'm like, "What is it?" And she says, "Can I give you a hug?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So she hugs me. And for some reason, like a lot of people might think, oh, that's very unprofessional of her. Like she didn't even offer advice or anything. And to me, it's like, no, but for some reason in my mind, I rationalized, I am so fucked up right now. Like I have actual I think that was it. I think it was the validation that like I had such real problems that even a therapist can't say anything that would make me feel better. Like I am that messed up. And for some reason that was like super reassuring. I was like, okay, so I'm not wrong to feel like this. It's not unhealthy for me to be sad about this. And she told me, like, if you want, we can start scheduling stuff. Like, we can set something up. You can come to sessions. I'm like, I'll think about it. I didn't end up doing it, but like that in and of itself, just I felt better because I honestly felt like I had told people about it. I told friends about it, but they didn't offer any solution. I don't know. Like, there was nothing they could do. But the fact that, like, a professional couldn't do anything either, I'm just like, wow, my life's really fucked up right now. And, I look back on it fondly. And even then, like, I wasn't upset about it. I was actually kind of glad. I'm like, wow, thank God that it's not just me that thinks that this sucks. So it's like your story really reminded me of that. And yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you just need to be told, like, yeah, man, that sucks.
Yeah, it's like what we talked about earlier. Sometimes you just need someone to listen, and then say like, "Yep, sounds real shitty" at the end, and then you're like, "It does sound shitty," and then you feel a little
it is. You're right.
Well, to abruptly segue to things that are
Sure.
not shitty. So I'm great at these. Pro podcaster here. Something I wanted to talk about is the formation of Minus World.
Sure.
Which is something I think has been great for all of you.
Absolutely.
I had talked about my 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon, except for, I guess we'd call it Nathaniel Bandy because I started with him. I found him, and then discovered you and D-Pad, and then through Minus World, that's where I actually never heard of SMG4, who apparently is huge. Right. I had never heard of him, or Hobo Bros. I'm not as familiar with some of the others, but like Swanky Box and through Minus World and my personal favorites, the 10v1s. Oh, and Simple Flips, I had never heard of until Minus World, and it's awesome to discover all these incredibly talented people through this. Like, I'm trying to think of a way to kind of describe each of them, but like you guys all have. It's weird that organically you guys form like a Voltron. Like you all have this part that makes this machine work so perfectly, but by yourselves you're still super amazing at the same time, and it's super, fierce and functional.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great people. Like I can rattle them all off. I always forget one. I don't know why. Like there are 10 of us. It's funny you mentioned like you didn't know Hobo Bros. Hobo Bros was actually around the time that Minus World started properly. They were kind of just starting up too. Now they're sitting at around, I think, 300 something subscribers. Not 300 something, 300,000 something subscribers. But when we started Minus World, they were approaching 100,000, I think. They might have had less than that, but yeah, like I remember telling Nathaniel one time years ago that like, oh dude, we should do something like that. We should do like a normal boots style thing, like just a network of creators. And I think it could be good. I think I actually originally proposed to do a multi-channel network, which I talked about earlier. But no, that's just way too complicated a thing to do. So he talked to Hobo Bros, which is, SMG4 and his brother Kevin, Kev Devs. They got into talks. They knew each other. I don't really know how, but they knew each other. They knew a bunch of us. Like Nathaniel knew me. He knew Tetra. He knew Simple Flips. I think he might have known Swanky as well. I think he knew D-Pad. So we all got contacted by them and said like, oh, we're thinking about doing this thing. Are you interested? And it might as like it was in its infant stages with the 10v1s. We started doing that on and off. Like I wasn't part of all of them, but I want to say most of them. I could be wrong about that, but that wasn't specifically Minus World yet. It became that later on. And the process was funny. Like we were just trying to figure like. We were sort of weird around each other at first, I feel like, as anyone is. Because not all of us knew each other. Like, oh, I know you. I've seen your stuff. I'm pretty sure I'd seen, like, all of their stuff at some point. At least one video of theirs.
Can I ask you one quick question about that?
Sure.
So you're saying how you're kind of awkward around each other. If you haven't seen another creator's content in that setting, but you're talking to them, what's the protocol? Do you kind of be like, do you lie that you've seen it? Do you just kind of dance around it? What's that like?
I feel like the best thing to do is just be honest about like what you have and haven't done. Like, I don't know. I really feel like none of them had seen. Like, I'm sure some of them at least had seen some of my stuff, but like, I wouldn't be offended if some of them were like, oh, I've never heard of you before. It's just like, I don't blame you. Like, the internet is huge, and like, we don't all watch, all the content. Like SMG4, I know I'd seen. I hadn't really seen a video, but I'd heard of him. I was like, oh, you're like that really big Mario creator who does like the 3D animations. Like, I don't think I'd ever, like I said, I didn't I hadn't ever watched one of his videos, but like I knew of him. Nathan and I have been friends for a couple years. I had seen one of Tetra's, like it was one of his glitch videos, way back when. When it came to D-pad, I'd seen his like Sonic Mania Easter eggs. Swanky Box, I want to say it was one of the Undertale ones, but I know I'd seen one. No, it wasn't. It was something else about him that I'd seen. It might have been like a Five Nights at Freddy's thing. Nico BBQ I'd heard because of Nathan, and they'd done collabs, and you know I'd seen like one or two of his videos before. Simple Flips I knew because I'm into speedrunning. I'm not a speedrunner myself, but I do enjoy that community. So like I'd heard the name tossed around a few times, like shout outs to Simple Flips. So I knew the name. And he actually kind of started making his own YouTube stuff too around the time Minus World started. So I knew the name. I thought that was really exciting. I think the only one I didn't really know was Kevin, because like Hobo Bros was again sort of starting out, and I didn't know enough about SMG4 to know that he worked in the background of SMG4. I'm gonna feel really crappy if I'm leaving someone out, because I always do.
So there's an unofficial roster in my Googling, so I don't know the official team.
I don't know. It wasn't something that we had planned out thoroughly. It just sort of like happened organically, and I do feel I feel honored. Like it may sound cliche, but I do truly feel glad and a bit proud to be a part of these big names, you know, because they're truly good people. They're great. They're fun to be around. They're not, you know, dramatic. They don't really talk smack on each other or other people. They're just really wholesome guys, and you know, we help each other out. Well, they mostly help us out. Like the smaller ones, they help us out with like understanding sponsorships, and if we have questions on a thumbnail, like, oh, does this thumbnail look good? Like we help each other out with stuff like that. It's great.
It's awesome. So I'm going to start hitting you with some just random questions now.
Okay.
Obviously, I like to learn more about the person. So I'll start with a video game question.
Okay.
Favorite character, if you had to pick one.
Oh, man. Favorite character in any video game?
Right, and you have to pick one.
Oh, boy, that's hard. That's a tough one. I'm sure I have one. I'm sure I have like a favorite character in video games.
I could simplify it a little bit for you. Let's say more Nintendo-esque Sonic E type games. You don't have to go into ones with like deep story.
Let's see. You know, I don't know if I'd say he's like my favorite video game character ever, but I really do enjoy Luigi. I think he's like probably one of, if not the most fleshed out like Mario character that there is, and I think that there's a lot of value to that, especially since like he's always in like Mario Shadow and stuff, but like especially with games like Luigi's Mansion, you get to see a lot of personality to him, like how much he cares about Mario, you know, how he can be brave even when he's terrified, you know, how he can be calm when things are cool, like he can just whistle his theme song, and I don't know, I think that that's really Luigi, as far as it goes, is a very interesting character, especially like in the Paper Mario series. He's always like a hoot to talk to, and you know,
you're right.
I don't know. I love Luigi.
He also has the far more superior princess and Daisy.
Daisy, yeah.
Who I've named one of my cats after as well.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah, no, Daisy all the way over Peach every day. I know. I completely agree about Luigi. I have twin boys, and one of them loves Mario, the other loves Luigi, and it makes me happy that somebody's in his corner.
Yeah,
I have a straight up just Luigi shirt that I wear all the time, and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah,
it's one of my only shirts that fit me since I put on so much weight. That's neither here nor there.
That's neither here nor there. That's true.
Next random question: favorite movie genre?
Favorite movie genre.
And then give me some movies you like out of that genre.
Oh boy, okay. I've always, ever since I was a kid, I've been fond of comedy. Jim Carrey was always one of my favorites growing up. So we would watch a lot of like The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Liar Liar, Ace Ventura, like a lot of like his 90s stuff like we would watch, and it was great. As far as like favorite, okay, this is not a movie that I would say is one of my favorite comedy movies, but I do think it's a very underrated movie, and it explains a lot of my sense of humor. It's a movie called Kung Pao, Enter the Fist.
Oh my god, I love Kung Pao.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yes.
It's a movie starring Bob Odenkirk, not Bob Odenkirk, Bob Odenkirk. He took footage from an old, I want to say Chinese film called Fist of the Tiger something Dragon. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's a very like serious movie. And he like inserts himself as the main character, does very silly voices, dubbing over. Actually, that might have been like the inspiration for the poorly dubs. I don't know. Like just subconsciously, because like he dubs most of the characters over himself, and what they say is ludicrous. It's ridiculous, but it's very very funny. Aside from that, like I can't really think of any other movies that like come to mind immediately that I'm just like, oh man, this, you know. But I'm a huge. We actually just watched the movie The Other Guys, starring Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, and it's such a delightfully awkward movie because like
it's actually really good, and I hate Mark Wahlberg, so that's saying something.
Like it knows how to utilize awkward moments well, because it's like my sister and I would just look at each other during an awkward moment and just laugh our asses off, because it's like, okay, they knew how awkward that was. Like there are a lot of movies like The Room, for example, where it's like it's funny because it's not meant to be funny. Like it's meant to be very serious. And whenever it is meant to be funny, it like is very awkward. But this was a movie that was just awkward in all the right places, to the point where like they meant it to be funny, and it was. And like I always appreciate humor like that. I think that I'm a guy who's huge into puns, dad jokes, stuff like that. I it's my bread and butter.
Well, I hope you keep coming on this podcast thing, because I have tons of dad jokes for you.
Hell yeah.
So I'm going to give you a little bit of homework then, since I'm going to awkwardly put you on the spot and tell you you're a recurring guest.
Okay.
So when you come back on again, there's a movie. I don't know how much you like Andy Samberg, but I love his dry, kind of awkward humor.
I've never really watched anything with him. Like I do think he's a funny guy. Like I've never really watched like The Lonely Island, or you know, stuff like that. Stuff that he's been in, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Like I haven't had the pleasure of watching those yet. But I'm sure that like I find it hilarious. He's a funny guy.
He has a comedy movie that came out. God, it's probably 10 years old at this point, called Hot Rod, where it flopped. Nobody's seen it, but literally. One of my closest friends in college, we sat and would watch it for weeks at a time and just have it on repeat. And people come in like, hey, what are you guys watching? We're watching Hot Rod. You want to join us? And we got our whole fraternity to eventually watch it within like 2 weeks, because we just loved it so much. We had it on repeat and just hung out and watched it in his room nonstop. It's so dumb, and the humor is so random, but sweet, but obscure at the same time. It's so hard to describe.
I think I
recommend it.
I think I know what you're talking about, and I do appreciate humor like that. I appreciate almost all kinds of humor, only when they're done right, because there are certain people who like think they can do comedy like that, because you have to have charm. And there's certain comedians out there who's just like, they don't really have a lot. Like the things that they say are funny, but they don't have the charm to like back it up, and like that's unfortunate.
Okay, one more movie question then. Favorite guilty pleasure movie?
Oh, God, favorite guilty pleasure movie? The Room, probably, with Tommy Wiseau. I started getting... when he started getting like a little bit more famous again, like I want to say last year. Yeah, last year. I was super into The Room. Like I watched it the first time last year, and I'm like, I hate this movie. I hate it so much. It's so stupid. It's so boring. Everything is awful in this movie. Then I watched it again. And I watched it a third time. And I played the video game based on the movie. And it's just like, man, okay, I can't hate this movie. I've watched it way too many times for me to say that I hate this movie. It's a guilty pleasure. It's so awkward, but it's really funny. And you know, I do respect it. I respect for what it tried to be. I don't really respect Tommy Wiseau as a film director or creator, but like the whole aspect of wanting to make a movie and wanting to do a passion project is something I wholeheartly respect, and like I can get behind that 100%.
So I'm gonna give you mine. Mine's not as funny. The movie P.S. I Love You with Gerard Butler. So I don't remember who the actress is, but he dies and leaves her all these notes around.
Oh, Meg Ryan.
And she goes and yes, maybe. I think you're right. I just remember every time she reads those and she get to the last line and it was always P.S. I love you. I just be crying like a baby every time. And that was like one of those movies I like when I need a good cry. I'm like,
yeah,
no one's around.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna watch P.S. I love you and cry a lot. So,
I need a.
That was my good
right
cry
now.
movie for a very long time.
I think we all have one. We were talking about it earlier, but I think Coco is that for me. Like that's my good like. And like I'm just singing the songs at the end.
That movie's just so good all around, though.
Yeah.
Like that's just such a beautiful movie. All right, so we'll do a few more video game ones, kind of get this a little back on track.
Sure.
Then we'll end it there.
Okay.
So what's a video game series that you would like to cover or talk about more, but it doesn't really necessarily fit with your channel?
Metal Gear Solid. Not that it doesn't fit with my okay. I feel like that's not fair because I could cover those games. The thing is, like, I did the first Metal Gear Solid as an Everything Wrong With, and actually, I probably would not have gotten into that series or Kingdom Hearts if it hadn't been for the Everything Wrong With, because people like suggested like, oh, you should cover this, and I'm like, okay, and then I got the games, I played through them, I loved them. When I did the video on the first Metal Gear Solid game, I didn't have a thumbnail prepared, so that's a video that still doesn't have a thumbnail, a proper one. Konami copyright claimed it, so automatically it like tanked. Like there was no ad revenue, there was like nothing, so people didn't really get a whole lot of exposure to it. And that's why I hesitate to like cover the rest of the series because I'm like, I don't know if people like there are a lot of Metal Gear Solid fans, but I don't know how interested they'd be in watching one of my videos. So I would love to do that more. But there are a lot of video. I feel like Pokemon is actually something that I'd love to talk about more on the channel, but because of how different my content is and how it's mostly focused around like voice acted cutscenes, I'm not able to. I actually did a video with Tetrabit Gaming and D-Pad Gamer. This was like shortly after Minus World was made, so I didn't really know them all too well, but I figured like, oh, these guys know like glitches and stuff. I'll have them on for that since I'll be using glitches up the ass for this video. And that got me a little bit closer to them. It got me a little bit to know them a little bit better. Not a whole lot. We didn't really talk too much during the production of it, but like I understood their sense of humor a lot better. And you know, that video didn't really do too well despite its length. I love that video personally. I think it's a really well put together video, but just a lot of like older games. I don't know, Pokemon. I'm trying to think. The Legend of Zelda is probably a game series I wouldn't be able to really cover on Everything Wrong With, mostly because they're not voice acted. But you know, I want to get into them. I've never played a Zelda game before, but I own most of the main series. I just haven't had a reason to really sit down and play them because I can't really do anything with it. I guess I could stream it, but I don't know.
I would definitely love a good Zelda stream. I actually don't think I've ever watched one. I don't see a lot of people doing them. I guess if I searched it, but
yeah.
I want to go back to Metal Gear Solid. I love the series, and we'll just touch on this briefly. But how much you know about like the history of the character and the creation of it? Do you know a lot about it, or are you just
like
kind of
real life, or
like why Snake looks and was how he was?
Yeah, no, I'm a little well versed in it. I haven't played 5 yet, but I know most of it.
Do you know that he was based off of Snake Plissken from
Escape from New York.
Escape from LA?
Oh yeah,
and it was
it LA? Escape from somewhere. Escape from a major city.
There was LA and New York.
Okay.
He's in both.
Okay,
I believe 80s action movies, and that was oh goodness, I'm blanking on his name now. Guy who does them in Silent Hill. It was like his love letter to American late 80s, early 90s American action movies and how they were like over the top and awesome. Mm-hmm. And if you follow the games as America, and not to get too political, you know, in like the first few episodes of my podcast, but
right.
As America has kind of become more of a villain and less desirable place, you can see the tone of the game shift too to be a little more cynical and serious, and Snake also kind of become more, you know,
that way.
Dirty and like the last few games he did, it, like almost like he hated the character at that point, because his opinion on, you know, what if it originally was a love letter had changed so much over the years. And if you ever had a chance to do a podcast about it, or an episode about it, I would love to. The stories are incredibly complex and they confuse me.
Right.
But the psychology of it, I think, is something that can really be broken down.
Yeah, that's what I love about them too. Like, I often say that my favorite movie is Metal Gear Solid 4. It's because it has so many cutscenes, but like
so much.
It's my favorite in the series because it just wraps everything so well together. And like I realized that like on its own, you couldn't make sense of the story because like it's so dependent on like characters from the other games, but it brings everything together so well. And I love stories like that.
It reminds me, I did an episode with D-Pad about Dark Souls lore. Mm-hmm. And I remember trying to prepare for that and like my brain melting because it doesn't make any goddamn sense. And that's kind of, I used to sit and watch when I had a lot more free time. Like I don't remember the channel and I feel really bad and I should look it up later, give them credit. But they break down the whole series and everything, and they like take little clips from each one and help tell the story.
That's awesome.
And it's so good. So to wrap it up, where can people find you on the internets?
If you look anywhere online, if you look up Charriii5, CHARR, 3 I's and a 5, that's, you know, a mouthful to say, but you know, if you look up that, or if you just look up the guy that does everything wrong with videos, I'm among one of the top 5, I want to say. But yeah, but anything with Charriii5 in the name, that's me. Except for that one dude who took my name for his Roblox account. That's not me. I don't play Roblox, but there was a kid who did that, I guess. That's weird. But like I'm on
That is weird.
I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, YouTube, obviously. I'm trying to think of like other social medias that I use. Twitch. I'm not on Facebook. You know, you can't find me on Facebook, but YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. Those are my 4 main ones. Those are the things I do stuff on. That you can absolutely find me there. And yeah, that's how you can find me out. You can see other projects I'm in. You can look up Nathaniel Bandy's stuff I've been in. You know, the Minus World channel. I've been on Nintendrew's channel a couple times. Nintendrew, that's who I was missing. Drew is fantastic. Yeah. I'm so sorry. He's
incredibly charming.
He's so good. He's like such a great friend. In fact, like he and I share so much of our sense of humor. Like I got to meet him in person last year, and he and I are just so similar in terms of sense of humor that he's a fantastic guy. He's very sweet, very lovely, very interesting person, very successful. I love Drew. But anyway, like I've been on his stuff too, and yeah, you know, like pretty much that's about it.
Awesome, and I'm at Brock Holiday 11, Holiday with 2 L's on Twitter, and I also pop up on the Venture Brothers podcast every once in a while on the After the Hype network.
So absolutely check that out.
All right, man, it's been awesome. All right, everybody, be good people.
Stay safe and stay awesome, everybody.